How is it going, everybody? I know that this is not a live video, so of course these chat boxes here, they don't really mean anything for this particular video. So we're actually just going to go ahead and knock them out of the way. They don't really matter for what we're doing right now. So why am I doing a video like this? Well, it's 3 in the morning, so I'm not streaming, but I am going to talk about the Ava Tyson situation once again. This is unfortunately one of those situations that keeps on developing, and I have to actually change my stance on pretty hard. I do want to kind of preface this, though, with based on the information that had previously been available when I made my first 2 initial videos, I stand by the opinions I had in those videos, with the context of what I had available. With the full context of everything available, and there may even be more now, I think that it's safe to say this situation is far worse and goes far deeper than any of the content creators who have covered this had actually talked about. So before we get into things as well, this also is very Me Too-y. For those who are not aware, the Me Too movement basically began as an idea to say, hey, once somebody who is in a position of power is starting to fall, when the dominoes are falling and the waves of vitriol that would come for sharing your stories are no longer going to be in the woodworks to the same degree, then maybe it's time to go ahead and say, hey, stupid shit happened to me too. In this case, stupid shit is quite awful. There are 2 things that we're going to be going over today. One is Ava Tyson's Discord, and the other is a relationship, kind of, sort of, that happened between Ava and another individual. But first, we're going to go over to those Discord conversations. Again, we don't need the chat box here, so we're going to go ahead and turn that off for this particular video. Blizzy, you do not need to be here either, so we're just going to boop. All right. So this is from a Discord server that this looks like what happens when you archive a server. I had to archive my old server whenever it got deleted. So I know what this looks like. So let's go ahead and take a look here. We have a conversation with, this is all just stuff happening on the server saying, lock the porn thread. There would need to be lots of changes before MrBeast's server goes public. He said, what porn thread? The NSFW, we did that. How many fucking times do I have to say it's locked? Situation has been handled correctly. Never call my staff members abusers. I know who I put in the position. That's from Lava. Lava is the one who originally said that they were not groomed and that they didn't believe that all of the hate that was being alleged towards Ava Tyson was legitimate or should have been levied in the first place. So we're going to actually see this story develop where Lava's concerned as well. And then we have someone called Chandler the God saying, it's because the app on my Mac, the Discord won't update. This is just all like edgy. This is all just edgy, stupid shit, right? Daddy's little pet, 14-year-old boy, my guy, have you even tried pussy yet? Let's see here. That kid is one of my old Minecraft friends. But, like, I've had enough. He needs to chill the fuck out. Yikes, I've reported him. He needs to stop. Permaban him. He keeps talking about having a role play, and he's, like, 14 and has a server of NSFW stuff. Lava going, yes, wait, hold on, do report them to Discord. Bold of you to assume we haven't. So this is all showing Lava's involvement years ago. This is 2019. This is showing Lava's involvement in Ava Tyson's Discord. And then we scroll further here. Cope and Seed says that in November 2019, the server was cleaned for anyone who actually cares about slurs, though I think that's the low end of the issues considering an admission of porn combos in the gen. I don't think Chris has said anything that hasn't been deleted is a pretty bad look. Let's take a look here. Brooke the Moon saying, what's the point of the deleted channel chat for exactly? So everyone knows Rhino was given the memer role, and now will automatically give that to people who join the server as well. Since you've joined, there's mysteriously been an NSFW channel. Just kidding, I have no idea who made it. Discount Milk saying there's been a few NSFW channels since day 1. Discount Milk also, turns out, might have been a minor while being on this server as well. Let me go ahead and double check that so that I'm not doing anything stupid here. But I remember seeing something on Twitter about that, and it looks pretty freaking bad where that situation is concerned. Let me go ahead and say here, numerous X accounts have since shared alleged Discord server messages. One of the conversations from October 5th features interactions between the Discord user Discount Milk, MrBeast, It's Hayden, and Chris the Meme God, which of course I believe was Ava Tyson. Discount Milk saying, no, he's not. His penis isn't big enough. I would know. MrBeast going, I know his penis size and it's huge. And then Ava responding with, haha, at MrBeast joins to comment on my penis size. I love it. So if, I'm just going to say this right now, that's really fucking weird. If a bunch of Discord members, regardless of age, are commenting on your dick size, chances are things are really, really off in your server. Now, the other thing that's strange about this is, like I said, apparently Discount Milk was a minor when this was happening. So whether you want to take that as Discount Milk saying, Ava Chris Tyson has shown me their penis, or if you want to take that as just a really bad, edgy joke made in 2017 when everybody was making them, that is entirely up to you. But either way, it's still really fucking weird. But it's not what we're focusing on today. It's not the worst part of everything. We are just looking at this, showing just how much these people were involved in the server. Now, while we could keep on digging through, seeing the ways in which the server chats were purged and moved, and the amount of edgy jokes that were made in them, other YouTubers are probably going to focus a lot on that. The one that I want to focus on, though, is a Twitter user named Muskina. Now, I've not personally talked to Muskina. I did actually reach out to Ava Tyson earlier on here, asking if I could get some context for things that have been said on the internet now, and I haven't received any response there. But let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on in this particular thread. And this is where I think a lot of my previous defenses, as they were, of Ava kind of crumble. Not in the sense that my original logic was incorrect. I believe I was still correct in my logic. But when you are working with limited information, which seems to be the whole picture, you get one situation in your brain. And right now, we are looking at a much larger situation, a much more cohesive situation. Before that, though, a reminder, if a bunch of minors are in your Discord server, and those minors are commenting on your penis size, the correct thing to do is to ban those minors. If you have an NSFW section that is accessible to minors in your Discord server, the correct thing to do is to ban those minors, or remove the NSFW section. I don't know how, like, being a responsible Discord moderator is so difficult. Don't let kids into places where kids should not be in, especially if they legally should not be in it. Like, that's a double whammy. If it's bad morally and it's also bad legally, like, you're getting hit on both sides there. At the very least, put a little, like, thing that says, hey, don't enter this section unless you're 18, or put it in a members-only area where they have to actually verify shit to get in. Like, there's a bunch of different ways that you can be more responsible about this on the internet if you desperately want to have an NSFW section for your Discord. That said, let's go ahead and take a look here with Muskina. She begins by saying, I was sexually assaulted by Ava Tyson, and here is my story. For context, Ava and I are both adults, and we met each other as adults. That context is very helpful, considering how many people in this set of conversations have been minors. Lava was a minor while being a mod in the server. Discount Milk was a minor while commenting on the penis size of Ava. And there's a bunch of conversations, it looks like, in the Discord about, we had to get rid of this 14-year-old. We had to get rid of that 14-year-old. So it's good that there's at least this clarification, but let's continue. For context, Ava and I are both adults. Ava followed me on Twitter in November of 2022 after seeing my transition timelines on Twitter when I had under 500 followers. Here's the conversation. You're a fucking inspiration and you rock. Hey, you too. You look incredible. How long have you been on HRT? Since like February. Thank you so much. We started messaging each other every day through Twitter. She confided that she thought my results from HRT were amazing and that she was planning on getting HRT soon to transition herself. As someone who follows online culture, content, and streaming, I was overwhelmed by emotions with being trusted with this secret and information that I knew would be huge news. As a transgender woman who publicly transitioned a month earlier, I could genuinely not believe something so amazing had happened in my life after I'd been through so much. Now, I want to pause right here to point out that this is an area where we can see a power dynamic forming. You have a smaller content creator and a larger content creator, and a larger content creator going, hey, here's this super secret information, and it can be used to make somebody feel special. This is a manipulation technique. Whether it is intended to be used to manipulate is entirely on the grounds of whoever happens to be there. Many people do this without actually realizing they're doing it. A lot of times, one of the best things about having friends is being able to tell them things that are important to us that we may not be able to actually tell to other people. Like, hey, you just beat this really cool video game, and telling your parents doesn't really do anything because they don't fucking care about that. They're not from the generation that cares about that, but your best friends might. So there's all kinds of reasons people might do this. But in this situation, from the context that we'll see later, I don't want to poison the well, but it does seem like this did end up getting used as a way to manipulate somebody, where you give them that secret information. It makes them feel special. And then you can engage in what's called love bombing. A technique where you want somebody to feel this overwhelming attachment to you. And a way to do that is to make them feel like you are overwhelmingly safe and the rest of the world is not. And there's a few ways to do this, but one of the most effective ways is where you do the love bomb. You start giving them so much attention, your undivided attention, especially when you're a larger creator and it looks like your attention could be in a billion places, but it's focused on you, and that's what makes you special. You feel special by proxy of the creator making you feel special. It's literally looking at their numbers and feeling like they're swelling you as a result of their numbers. Cults do this all the time, where you go to a place and you start feeling like, I don't know if I belong here. Everybody's drinking some weird Kool-Aid, and then the cult starts moving in on you and going, here's this basket of cookies, here's this chicken sandwich that I got the other day that I made and you should definitely try. Here's all of these things, here's all these things we're going to be doing next year as a community. Maybe you should stick around for a while so we could do all these cool things we fundraised for. Hey, you look really cool. You know, let's hold a party for you coming to church today. I think that's a good reason to celebrate with a potluck. Like, all of this stuff, it's done to make you feel special, and it makes you feel like you should return. That's really the ultimate thing, is it's a way to make you feel like you should return. If somebody's abusive, they may use the love bomb as a way to mask the abuse. Say that they get mad at you and they go off on you one day, and then the next day, suddenly they are coming into your DMs, or they are, coming over to your house. They've got a chocolate bar. They're saying, oh, I'm sorry. Hey, let me take you out to dinner. Let me do all these things. Oh, you need to get some groceries. Here, why don't I help you with those groceries too? Why don't I do this? Why don't I do that? And it makes you feel special, and it makes you feel important, and it kind of masks whatever abuse they did. And then 3 weeks later, they do it again, and they'll love bomb afterwards as a way to try to mask that abuse, instead of actually taking time to address why they engaged in abusive behavior. This is actually something that I used to do. I recognize this not just because I watch Telltale's content and a whole lot of other people who cover cults, but I recognize this as one of my coping mechanisms that I did before I went to therapy. This is a thing that I would do if I engaged in bad behavior, is instead of trying to address what the root cause was, I would go and say, hey, no, I'm gonna do this grandiose gesture. I'm gonna buy all these things for this person. I'm gonna do all this stuff for them, and I'm gonna make them feel extra super special. But I'm not going to try to fix me. I totally can't be the problem. That also could have been narcissism speaking at the time. It's a very, very... It's a very easy way to get caught in a cycle, both as an abuse victim and as an abuser. But let's go ahead and move on into the next bit. More information on cults and abuse and all kinds of stuff like this. You can find out by looking at people who are better at articulating the stuff than I can, like, say Telltale. Eventually, we talked about me potentially working for MrBeast, and she told me that she sure could get me in a video. This is the response here from the old DMs, saying, also, I'm just going to throw this out there. Please let me know if you guys are ever hiring any type of work. I used to work as a floor manager at the #1 comedy club in Boston, so I'm comfortable around famous people and celebrities. I've worked mostly miserable jobs, sometimes working 70 hours a week, and still struggle to get by and transition. I've been working as a chimney sweep, risking my life for $15 an hour, so I mean it when I say I will literally do anything you guys ask of me. I'm not sure where you guys are based out of nowadays, but I would drive there tonight for a job if asked. My number is X if you want to reach me, and I have a resume if you'd like me to send one over. With Ava responding, I'll definitely keep you in mind. We do videos where we need people to compete, so if you don't mind sitting in a circle or something, I'm sure we could figure something out. This just looks like the standard response you would give to somebody, but the worst part here is the victim giving the information of, I would literally do anything. This creates an opening. Do bear in mind, if you are a fan of a content creator at any point, and I'm not trying to do this to victim blame the person in question, this is just a rule of thumb for anybody in the future to follow. If you are in a position and there is a content creator or a celebrity or anybody who has given you the time of day, and you choose to say, hey, I would do anything for X, that's a really bad move. A lot of us get into these positions of power due to some level of narcissism. And that's not just post-therapy me being severely introspective. It's also just kind of a true thing, right? Most of us become big as content creators because we feel like we have something to say, and we're confident enough to say it, and we think that not only should you watch what we are doing and what we are saying, but also that we deserve some form of monetary compensation for that. While on the one hand, that's basic economics of working any kind of job, on the other hand, it definitely comes from a place of self-centeredness for a lot of people. Heck, even myself included in a lot of cases. I feel like the things I have to say are worthwhile in some way, shape, or form, so I'll monetize a video. It's how all of us operate. It's a good idea, recognizing that, to not give openings to people on the internet who may be abusive narcissists. Jen said she was the most famous person to ever show me that kind of attention. She immediately started love-bombing me and making me feel like the most important person in her life. Within the first few weeks of us talking, she told me so, and she told me that let me reread this. Within the first few weeks of us talking, she told me that she told her therapist about the positive impact I was making on her life, and she had told her friends about me. She very quickly moved our conversations to Snapchat. This one really gets under my skin. So not only is Snapchat a platform that is rife with abuse, because people can say anything they want, as horrible as it may be, and then Snapchat will give you a warning if you start screenshotting any messages that happen on Snapchat. This means that it's harder for people to keep stock of when you said something really yikesy and somebody wants to have a recording of that so that they do not get in trouble, right? So, like, you're working with somebody who's in a large media organization, and if they say something very untoward towards you, you want to be able to record that. You want to be able to keep your ass covered. So when people say, let's move this conversation to Snapchat, I always view that as a red flag. I've only ever seen that as a red flag. But let's continue. Let's see, throw this out there. Please let me know if you guys are ever hiring for any kind of work. I'm pretty familiar with your guys' content. I definitely wouldn't mind sitting in a circle, but surely you guys must be doing crazier stuff than that nowadays. Either way, thank you so much for keeping me in mind, and always feel free to reach out. Also, you get a lot of your hairline back on HRT. They don't tell you that when you get on it. I don't know how the channel is ever going to top the Squid Games video. That was nuts. And yeah, you can add me on Snap. I'm X on Snap. So, quick aside on the HRT thing. For those of you who might not know why people go bald, I know people like to make fun of people who are bald on the internet all the time. Hell, I'm balding, and I get it in my comments all the time. But the main reason that people go bald is high testosterone. Like, literally. When your body metabolizes enough testosterone, it does two things. One, it converts the excess into estrogen. Fun fact. Two, it starts to negatively affect your hairline. Something with how the chemicals operate in your body cause your hairline to recede. It's why we call it male pattern baldness. People who are born male tend to have higher levels of testosterone, and we then start to suffer from this. HRT literally can help with that process, as when you go on HRT, you are not only taking estrogen, but you are also taking a testosterone blocker. The active chemicals that are causing your brain to go, hey, we need to thin the hair, your body is experiencing less of those chemicals, so your hair thinning happens a lot less. Yeah, fun fact. That one's actually true. Anyway, while I was under the impression that she was working on getting me in a video, we started having video chats on Discord. Ava asked me to masturbate with her on video call multiple times, and I always felt like I had to say yes if I wanted to be in a video or get a job. This one is really fucking weird to me. While on the one hand, it's okay if people are friends and they go like, hey, DTF, and the other one goes yes, and you guys decide to go off to the races, I don't have a problem with people engaging in casual sex. But here we have the most blurry boundaries possible based on the context provided. Not only do we have a large content creator talking with somebody who has no following, barely any presence on the internet, so there's a huge power dynamic that's already here, but without them saying, hey, we are a thing, we are in a relationship, without you having a designated point where you said what your dynamic is, the only dynamic that is left to look at is power. And if the only dynamic we're looking at is power, then these kind of asks are widely inappropriate. Even with... Just think of it this way. Would you talk to somebody for a couple weeks and just randomly go, hey, do you want to masturbate on call to with one another? If that seems weird to you, then imagine if you said that while you were in a position of power over this person. Say you were their boss, or you are a massive content creator and they are a fan, or you're a rock star and they are a fan. These are, in fact, abuses of power. You need to go into these conversations letting people know, hey, my expectations are this, my boundaries are this is where I'm comfortable, this is where I'm not. I don't think that has to sit there and be the standard when you're just flirting, but when you start asking to do sexual favors with one another, you need to have some clear boundaries, and obviously here, boundaries have not been set by either party. But the person most responsible for those boundaries here is going to be Ava. They are the one who is in a position of power. She is the one here who should have been able to say, no, I'm this large of a content creator. That has a huge impact on whether or not you will do certain things. So Ava asked me to masturbate on call with her. I felt like I had to say yes. On one occasion, she asked me to join a video call and asked me to masturbate, even though she knew that I wasn't feeling well, which led to me joining her and then puking after a few minutes. Our conversations always leaned in the direction of affectionate and sexual, and she sent me a lot of sexually explicit Snapchats, messages, photos, and videos. Our relationship was very weird and confusing, and I didn't fully realize that I was being coerced at the time. Now, what does that mean here? Well, again, let's say that I'm a larger content creator and you are a fan, and I go, hey, do you want to do this sexually explicit thing with me? And every couple days or so, the conversation moves into, man, there's this really big bit of content we're working on right now, and I wish we could have you in. Eventually, we'll get you in, though. But I really want you in. So again, this goes back to the love bombing thing. You're dangling a carrot. You're dangling a carrot on a stick. You are holding that in front of somebody's head, and it can very well make them feel like if they don't do what you ask them to do, if they don't do that, then they won't get the carrot on the stick that you're dangling in front of their head. It's like if your boss is saying, we're gonna have a promotion ready for you, but it's gonna take a little bit of time. In the meantime, while we're waiting, why don't you come under my desk? Like, it's really fucking weird when you start inserting power here. If the only dynamic that is available isn't a relationship dynamic, then you have to default onto the other thing that is available to look at, and that right now is power. She eventually flew me out to her home in Greenville with a one-way ticket while I was still under the impression that she would be getting me in a video with MrBeast. The first night at her house, she told me to set up in her bedroom as I would be sleeping in there with her. I thought that this was potentially the beginning of a relationship. That would be a reasonable expectation. If somebody is saying, come live in my house with me, come sleep in my bed with me, come do sexual things with me, it's very reasonable to expect that that's you trying to do relationship stuff. But when we went to bed together that night, we ended up cuddling and kissing, which led to her taking her clothes off and asking for oral sex from me. I went down on her, expecting to engage in sex that would be reciprocated, but when I was done, she made it clear that she did not want to return any sexual favors to me. So this does not make somebody an abuser. This does not make somebody a horrible person. What it does do is it makes somebody a terrible fucking sexual partner. If you and your partner are engaged in sex, the goal should be pleasing each other. The goal is not to get off. The goal is to get your partner off. Your partner should be doing what they can to help you, and you should be doing what you can to help your partner. This is the behavior of somebody who just discovered sex and hasn't figured out yet that they need to be doing other things besides the sex thing. This is somebody whose only expectation is getting off and nothing more. That's a bad fucking sign. Is it a sign of abuse? Not necessarily. Is it a sign they're a really bad partner? Oh, absolutely. I was hoping that would not be the case the next time we hooked up, and I believed we would be moving to something more mutual. Over the course of the next week, Ava engaged me sexually and ended up receiving oral pleasures several times, but she never reciprocated any sexual favors in return when I was done. I was too scared to directly ask for anything in return, and she took advantage of that. The day she first posted publicly that she was on HRT was also the first week that I was there. After making her post, Jimmy called her later that night while Ava was receiving oral sex from me. She answered the phone and had the conversation with Jimmy while I continued to perform oral on her. I was again now given access to very private information, which made me feel special, something that happened consistently throughout our relationship. This is the kind of thing that a therapist can help with a lot. If you have these situations happen, a therapist can let you know, like, hey, that's kind of yikesy, or, that might be a little more normal. This is definitely not a normal thing. It's not normal to be on the phone with your friend while somebody is doing sexual acts on you. That's not normal. Don't engage in a private conversation up here while somebody is doing a private, intimate act with you down there. Because then you're basically involving a third person in your relationship shit without their consent. And God, it's kind of gross to fucking think about. But this is also another aspect of the love bombing thing. This is a thing that happens a lot with that cycle of abuse we were talking about. Let me do something that is bad to you. Like you making you do oral to me and me not reciprocating, me not trying to help you get off in turn. But also, here's access to this super secret information that you're able to obtain in a really, really off-putting way. But if we don't tell anybody we were doing that, then maybe it's not so off-putting and it's just kind of hot. But it's really not. It's just kind of gross. Don't be on the phone with your friend while your girlfriend is doing something to you unless, like, everybody involved understands that's a thing you're trying to do. It's just kind of fucking gross otherwise. So, looking at this situation here, we do seem to have an established pattern of abuse. Carrot on a stick being dangled in front of somebody's face, no reciprocation, and also, notably, this person has not been let into a MrBeast video, which seems to have been part of the agreements before. That carrot on a stick seems to have been dangled as long as humanly possible in front of her face, without her ever being allowed to get that carrot. So, after almost a week, I was starting to feel really used and confused about everything. While I was there, I found out through conversation between Ava, myself, and her friend that she didn't have the ability to cast anyone in a MrBeast video. That's fucked up. I eventually asked Ava to buy me a ticket home, and I flew home the next day. Leaving Ava's house was incredibly difficult to process emotionally after that week. I remember trying to hold myself together while traveling so that I wouldn't break down in public. When I got home, I spent the rest of my night crying uncontrollably without fully understanding what had happened to me. Ava and I remained in contact, but she did not show me the same level of attention and affection as she did before I spent the week with her. The minute the carrot on the stick failed, they basically got abandoned. This was the first time we went through a cycle of her love bombing me, using me, falling for someone else, treating me like I'm an annoying jealous ex, and then coming back when things didn't work out. Yeah, I've seen that behavior. I've actually had that one happen to me. That really fucking sucks. I know how that looks. Shortly after the first week, she went on a work trip to Japan and invited someone else. But things didn't turn out the way she expected. She was upset and flew back early from her trip, and she also offered me a job as her assistant and then offered me to move in with her. I quit my job that month and moved in with her on June 16th and began working that day. I was supposed to start with a 2-week trial, and then here's their conversation going. I'm just going to message him when boarding my flight. Thanks again for everything. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you too. Look forward to working together with you. During this trial period of my employment, Ava continued to receive oral sex from me multiple times. Remember when I mentioned the whole, like, don't do this shit with your boss? Your boss shouldn't do this shit with you? We're here. Now Ava's a boss in this situation, and we are 100% doing this. I started to feel, I started to feel like I was being coerced, and because I started feeling that way, I decided to try and avoid any physical engagement between Ava and I that could lead to more one-sided sexual acts. I took a short trip to my home state at the end of July and returned on July 28th. When I got back, I continued to do my best to avoid anything physically sexual between Ava and I. On July 29th, we were watching TV alone in her living room with no warning or prior physical engagement or sexual conversation. She took off her pants and started touching herself in front of me. I'm just now... That's... Why? I understand you've had previous instances of sexual encounters with this person, but, like, if this person has been actively avoiding sex with you, or any kind of conversation involving sex with you, maybe the correct thing to do is having a conversation with them about where the boundaries of your relationship are and look like, or, you know, if you want to do stuff, as opposed to just whipping out your dick and going, nope, it's time. It's fucking gross. I had just moved in with Ava, and I left my job to come work as her assistant. In no way, shape, or form did I feel like I could say no without someone risking my job or being asked to leave. She used that against me in order to receive non-consensual oral sex. This was the moment that truly broke me for the first time. Nothing was enjoyable. It felt like it would never end, and my entire body just hurt from performing the act. It took me a few days to accept what had happened. Unfortunately, I was dealing with all those emotions while on a work trip, traveling the country and spending most of my time with people I had just met. The trip itself was very isolating as an employee, and there were several times where I broke down crying. I was on a 3-hour car trip to the airport with 3 people I had just met, and I spent the entire drive crying, but trying to be as quiet as possible so that I didn't bother anyone. Then I had to wait and board for an overnight flight from Boston to LA. When I boarded the plane, I decided to send Ava a message on Telegram sharing my concerns with her. I tried to do so carefully and navigate the conversation in a way that would stop me from being sexually assaulted again, but allow me to keep my job. Ava was very manipulative in her response and follow-up conversations we had in person once we got to our hotels. So here is the victim going, hey, can we talk when I get to Cali, or when we get to Cali? I've been put in a lot of uncomfortable situations, and I haven't really felt comfortable bringing it up. I know we've hooked up in the past before I started working with you, but now I feel pressured, and it just makes me feel really uncomfortable. The last few times it happened left me feeling empty and used. I know that wasn't your intention, but it hurts to feel like I'm an object around the house that can just be used. All the misgendering, deadnaming, and isolation I've experienced on this trip is also kind of pushing me to a breaking point. I've been quietly staring at a corner and bawling my eyes out since we left that last house, and I just need something to change so I don't feel like this anymore. They just sent out the LA hotel info, and my dead name is in the parentheses next to mine, but yours isn't, so I don't get why mine is. What? Why? You would think that Ava, being a trans woman herself, would have done everything in her power to try to advocate for this person being treated with the respect they deserve, as opposed to being a fucking asshole. Muskina, in this situation, she seems to have tried to operate with the best of intentions, and instead, she gets dead-named, she gets misgendered. I don't know what the context of the dead-naming and misgendering were outside of that, but it's a basic thing, right? Like, if I tell you my name is Chris, and you go, no, it's not, I'm going to call you John, and you proceed to do that for the next week, that's a pure sign of disrespect. It's nothing but that. It is not showing the basic common decency. And I know there's going to be some Matt Walsh-loving edgelord in the comment section who's going to go, oh, no, I'm just trying to be truthful because of biological reality. I don't give a shit. If somebody's born male at birth or female at birth, science has progressed far past where you exist currently as a bigot. So I don't care about your opinion. It's a non-opinion to me. What I do care about, though, is the fact that Moonska seems to be a victim here, 100%. Ava responds going, wait, if you're talking about the other day, and to be clear, this has been my feeling since we started a professional relationship, along with our friendship, I don't want to do anything sexual with each other. Then why did you take off your pants? That's a dynamic that can be misconstrued and is unethical for me. Then why did you take off your pants? Like today, the person told me he wanted to use my body, and I didn't want to at the time, but I didn't want him to be upset or mad with me, so I let him. That's what happened the other day. I guess I should have asked you to stop it, but it just kind of happened, so I just let it. You took off your pants, though. About the dead naming, I have no clue why that happened, but I would love to talk to Blank with you about how to make it not happen again. I think you should also talk to Blank so he can reassure you that A, this is a hectic shoot, that they don't really know what they're doing, and with the PAs, they drop the ball constantly, and it happens a lot. It happens to Blank a lot, too. If it happens to multiple people, that doesn't... Hold on. If I introduce myself to you as insert name and insert gender, it's very easy to not get that wrong anymore. You have all the information. You have to make an active effort to not do that. You have to make an active effort to he a her or to her a he. That's a deliberate thing after a certain point. Unless it's somebody who you've known for like 12, 15, 16 years, where you might have several years of habits that are ingrained with you. But if you're just a PA on set, which is the people who get all of the food, they fetch all of the inventory, like they're literally I've done PA work. They're literally the people that grab things for other people. They are the gophers. It's a very low-paying job, and when I did it, it was a non-paying job, but it is a job that exists within anybody who's doing a shoot on a set. It's not hard to get people's names and gender right there. It's not very difficult. Saying that other people get misgendered too, it doesn't make it better, like, at all. See here, you're an important person to me. I want to be your friend, and if the work relationship causes stress, then I'd rather just focus on our friendship. I'd love to talk in person. And of course, Moonska says, I definitely still want to work with you, and your friendship is really important to me too, so I don't want to lose that either. My emotions definitely just all added up, and it hit me like a brick on the car ride here. I just felt so embarrassed and I couldn't stop crying over it. Also, I don't mind being hectic ever. It's the dead naming and misgendering that makes me feel like there's a little respect for me as a human. In terms of being openly sexual with my friends and colleagues, that's something that I'm always down for, but the way our relationship has developed between each other sexually is incredibly one-sided, and it just makes me feel used and uncomfortable. That's not your fault, though. It's just the way things developed between us, and I let that happen. I would really like to talk about this in person. Sorry I sent that long message, and I love you. Love you too. I don't know if I'll sleep tonight, so come by when you get here. So, okay. Obviously, this is a note here. As I said, if people are doing the whole, hey, I'm down to fuck if you're down to fuck, then that opens up the line for doing that. But if you have a sexual relationship that only exists one way, I'm sorry, you're not doing the whole pillow princess things. I'm going to kink shame pillow princesses. I'm doing that right now. If you're a pillow princess, no, you're not. You're just a person who doesn't like being good to your partner. You are lazy and a bad sexual partner. That's where I'm going to be here, and that's what this looks like to me. Especially when you add on the layers of psychological abuse that seem to be happening here. This is really, really fucked up behavior. Doing the whole, it's okay that the misgendering is happening. It happens to everybody. No, I definitely just want us to be normal friends. Ignore all the sex that we did here. I don't want to be friends with benefits. I just want to be friends. Like, no, if you want to do the friends with benefits thing, then say you're doing the friends with benefits thing. Like, go over lunch and just being like, hey, I'm down to keep doing this for as long as you're down to keep doing this. That's a valid thing to do. That doesn't seem to be what's happened here, though. Not really. And if they're meeting each other at the hotel in the dead of night and not sleeping, then I can only assume where this is going. We agreed not to have sex anymore if that's how I felt about what happened, and for several months we didn't engage in explicitly sexual acts. But we did continue to engage in physically sexual acts such as cuddling, groping, hand-holding, and sleeping in the same bed. And sexual conversations and texts. Hot, God so hot, so fuckworthy, mommy even. Okay, thank you, I need that confidence. I wanted to tweet these thoughts. Yes, Mother Ava, you're so cute. How about now? It's a lot of flirtatious messaging. Like, a lot of flirtatious messaging. And again, it feels like the bad side of a will they won't they rom-com, but with none of the happy, quirky behavior and just what is literally described as sexual assault. For the next year, Ava towed the line with me between what was and wasn't an appropriate relationship with our power dynamic. These led to me having mixed feelings and receiving mixed signals from Ava on how she viewed me. She was able to manipulate me very easily with the power she had over me, which led to the cycle of her love bombing me, using me, falling for someone else, treating me like I'm an annoying, jealous ex, and then coming back when things didn't work out with multiple people. How many back-to-back relationships is this person having in such a short period of time? Ava, I seriously doubt you're going to watch this video. I'm a very small channel. But, how and why? So, there's something to be said about the dynamic of being in a polyamorous relationship, say, where one person is the rock, and they are comfortable with their partner going out and doing whatever they want, and then that partner comes back and cries when it doesn't work out, or if it doesn't work out to their one partner. I'm sure there's some people who have a polyamorous relationship dynamic like that. There's no necessary problem with that dynamic. That's not what's going on here. This is a person being held in a roster, effectively. And I know what this feels like, because I've been held in the roster while somebody went out and dated other people and then came back to me afterwards saying, oh, I made a mistake. It was all wrong. And then the relationship didn't happen again there while they went and dated somebody else. This happened years and years and years ago, but I've had this happen to me. I know what this feels like. It's a really shitty thing to do. And hell, I think when I was like 15 years old, I did this to someone who was a friend of mine as well. Like, this is stupid high schooler bullshit that some adults don't grow out of. And Ava seems to have not grown out of this. Literally holding a person hostage in the will they won't they zone, and then using them every time that it is convenient to them. It's a really fucked up thing to do, so maybe don't do the fucked up thing. We did eventually hook up one more time during a week in December where I was super emotional because my cat of 12 years that I brought with me to NC was dying of cancer. I was spending a lot of time with my cat and monitoring her breathing rate, and she seemed okay, and then she passed away in her sleep before I expected it. I found her curled up in a corner, showing no signs of life. I realized what had happened, and I sat down, picked her up in my arms, and started crying. It was up very late, around 1 a.m., and Ava heard me, so she came to speak with me and realized what had happened. I was hysterical and couldn't speak clearly and gather my thoughts properly. She stayed with me for about an hour, at which point I told her I was going to take my cat to the vet in the morning so they could prepare her body for cremation. After an hour, Ava told me she didn't know if I wanted her to stay or not, so she was going to go downstairs and get to sleep. I stayed alone with my cat until 7 a.m., and then took her to the vet by myself while I was still crying uncontrollably. This led to a lot of fights between Ava and I that week, in which she continued to gaslight and manipulate me into thinking I was the problem, and it was my fault that I was feeling used. So, when somebody's in a situation of hyper-vulnerability like that, the correct thing to do often is to try to give them some attention, give them a hug, give them whatever you think is needed there, but then don't do the whole, I don't know if you want me here, so I'm just going to go. Like, no, that looks like shitty behavior. At the very least, go, hey, let's go ahead and get your cat put in a box. Let's put some pillows in there, some stuff that would be very nice and fluffy and stuff that they would like, so that you can free up the person's arms. And then lift them up, maybe even carry them if you need to, over to a couch, set them down, and put on some kind of distraction. If you fall asleep during that, then that happens. But abandoning them in this situation when they're vulnerable may not be the right thing to do. Being there with them, and again, if you pass out on the couch while you're watching stuff, you've done as much as you can at that point. Don't just go, well, I'm gonna go, I'm just gonna leave. It just looks kind of shitty. It looks really, really shitty. This led to a lot of fights. I felt like I was being used. Whenever I became emotional or had an issue with how Ava was treating me, it was always turned around on me, and I was made to believe that if I didn't stop acting that way or prove that I was okay with everything, that I should move out and not be her assistant anymore. The cycle kept happening until Easter 2024, when Ava traveled with me to spend Easter with my family. When we then spent a weekend together in Boston in a hotel while I showed her around the city. At this point, we were very, very close emotionally, and I told Ava how I was feeling about us, and that I wanted to have a conversation about us. I told her that I already felt like we were in a relationship, and she agreed. I told her that the feelings I had for her were like that, of a partner, and she said she felt the same way about me. She told me that traveling with me for Easter did something for her, and I believed we had something special moving forward. A few days after Easter, she planned to travel to LA to visit a friend that she was talking to and interested in sexually. I told her this wasn't a problem for me, and that what I wanted for us to have was an open relationship anyways. She wasn't ready to officially call us partners at this point, but she assured me that this person wasn't looking for anything serious, and she didn't even know if they were going to hook up. She ended up hooking up with this person on the first night and was calling them her boyfriend by the end of the week, and they were officially in a relationship. That fucking stings. You do the will they won't they thing. You go, I just feel so close to you. I just feel like we're already in a relationship, you know? I just don't want to put a label on it right now. It's just very important to me that we don't. And then you go fuck off with some other person and immediately start a relationship with them like that. I'm sorry. That just reeks of the person who's irresponsible with other person's feelings. Just saying. Maybe it's coming from personal experience. Who knows? I had a huge problem with the way all this played out, and I wanted some clarification from Ava on what she and I were. This led to a lot of fights, which led to me moving out in the beginning of June because of how bad my mental health was getting, where everything was going between us. And then here's the conversations for us to look at. Get off the phone with your boyfriend. Nerd, you're coming over next week, right? I remember when I used to be important to you. Ava going, you're not unimportant to me. I wish you wouldn't say things like that. It makes me insecure. This is projection. Somebody is feeling insecure. It's why they're telling you that they don't feel like they're important. And you tell them, no, 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 no. When you do that, it makes me feel insecure. That may or may not be true, but just saying, I wish you wouldn't say that, it doesn't fix anything. It's better to go, well, why do you feel like that? Why do you feel like that's the case? Let's have a conversation about why you got here, and let's also have a further conversation about what I did that got you here, feeling the way that you do. Maybe we can find some way to resolve that. Like, that's the reasonable thing to do, not doing like, I wish you wouldn't say things that directly implicate I've been an asshole. So I'm not trying to make you insecure, but sometimes I get insecure and feel that way myself. You become so more distant, and I get treated differently every time you fall for someone new, and that's really hard for me to deal with based on the nature of our relationship, and considering I gave up everything to move down with you and be your BF/assistant. It's a lot to deal with emotionally, but I also get insecure that you'll become so enamored with your new partner that you'll start looking for ways to get rid of me so that you can spend all your time with them. Ava says, I think you're insecure about this because of the blank thing, because I've texted and called as much as I can. I played Elden Ring yesterday and spent the day with Chief and then did therapy, so I didn't look at my phone that much. I didn't even start talking to him until after my therapy appointment. He was asleep. It was super frustrating how every time I try to be happy, I have to be careful not to be too happy, or you'll start saying stuff like this. It almost feels like you're the one pushing me away because of your own feelings, because I've not changed how I treat you at all. Yeah, you were treating her like shit the whole time. I don't know how to handle the situation. I legit now have anxiety that I didn't text whichever app you messaged me on. If I don't text whichever app you message me on, you'll get mad at me. The anxiety I feel about this situation reminds me of whenever blank would get mad at me while I was at work and say I was choosing work over her. I'm not choosing anything over you. You're my friend, and I just wish you could be happy for me and everything I've done for you. Not even just the monetary stuff. I've held you while you cried, went with you to meet your family, like I didn't do that for any reason other than it meant a lot to you. I don't know. To be honest, if you would have just acted like nothing changed, I would have loved for you to be around, but I genuinely don't think that's a good idea for you to be around blank now. I don't know where to go from here because I understand you may feel this way, but I've gone out of my way to try to make you feel included, so I'm genuinely at a loss to what to do. Muskie responds with, it's not that you're too happy or that I'm not happy for you. It's not about not replying to my messages you don't see. I don't want to push you away, but I did want to make sure that you understood my feelings and what I'm going through emotionally, because it hasn't been easy for me, and I've been so full of anxiety. Part of this is the blank thing and having some trauma from that, but I think it's more that I have such strong feelings for you, which creates needs. Usually those needs are met, and they go beyond just being included. It hurts to, usually those needs are met, okay. It hurts to feel like something I'm consistently given. It hurts to feel like that's something I'm consistently given and then taken away, and it's painful. It made me so happy that you were able to be there for me in times when I cried and came to visit my family, but I thought you did those things because you wanted to, and that's just what friends do. I really thought we were something more than friends, and I'm trying to find a way to deal with that. I love you so much, but I don't want you to think that you can't bring me around people like blank now because I honestly like him, but I'm just scared of losing whatever it is we have. I don't really know what to do or where to go from here either. I just know I care about you a whole lot. I know the way I'm acting is me taking a huge risk, but I couldn't just let my feelings fester while I sit here and recover. I've also spent countless nights staying up with you to make sure you're okay, and I've held you in my arms while you cried and bled all over me, and all the times I put myself in uncomfortable situations to be there for you, and I try to make sure that you know that the money means nothing to me compared to your friendship by buying my share of food for us and gifts. It's really hard to just move on from all the stuff in a short span. Like, I get we will meet other people and move on and play different roles in each other's lives at some point. It just hurts a lot to feel like it's going to happen so fast. If you want to call and talk, that's fine. If you want to take some space and talk when I get back, that's fine too. Don't feel any pressure to call. I've thought about and realized I'm the one who just needs to take some space and process. You've done nothing wrong and been an amazing friend, and I'm sorry that I made you feel any differently. I'll still message you for schedule and work stuff, that's fine, but I think taking a break from the emotional stuff for me and just letting you be happy with blank without worrying about me is what's best. So that was a lot to get through there, but basically this shows the mentality of what happens when you do really like somebody and they claim they really like you, and then they move on to another person, and then it'll be a next person, and the next person, and then the next person. You start feeling like you don't have a role to be in the person's life. When all of your lines are getting so severely blurred because of this person's actions, it can be very hard to feel like you're emotionally stable. In fact, it's a very unstable thing. It's untenable long term. Humans in general are not built to be in these kinds of wishy-washy situations. Not open relationships. People can do that. That's fine. What I mean is, we are creatures of habit. We are creatures of patterns. When you have such a dynamic life because it keeps getting uprooted and you have no emotional grounding and anything, it starts to get very, very unstable. You as a person start to get very, very unstable. And I'm sure there's plenty of people in the comment section who are going to let me know that they are the perfect stable person in a world of dynamic change, and then they'll get mad at something that changed in the latest Pokemon game or Call of Duty game because stability is so not necessary for them, except in all the areas where it's really necessary for them. That said, we will continue. When I moved out, we had an agreement that I would keep my job as a hybrid travel remote work from home position. When I reached out to Ava after moving out to discuss my schedule for the rest of the month, she informed me that she was already working on replacing me. And then this looks like just the conversation about that. You can pause and read this part if you want to, but my throat is starting to give out. She said I felt forced out of my position and made it clear to her that I wasn't comfortable with the way things went down, but she didn't answer any of my concerns. I kept in contact with her and remained friendly while I navigated my departure from the company, and she told me that she was keeping the company updated and that someone would talk to me about my severance and leaving the company in June. Need to get some water. When this did happen, I asked Ava, when this didn't happen, I asked Ava for another update on my employment. I was eventually given the correct contact information for HR. Before I had talked to HR, Ava found out that I had talked about her sexually assaulting me and that I was planning on reporting her. Her reply was to send one message and then block me on everything. Said, let me send her a message. Wait, no, it's blank. She misunderstood me when I told her to hop off on blank. She should be contacting you. Sorry for the hold up. Wow, Jess. I learned that Ava told them that I had decided to resign of my own free will, and the first they heard of me leaving was the first week of July. I informed them what was actually going on with my resignation, and it became pretty clear that Ava had not been forthcoming with them about anything that had transpired between us during the course of my employment. A few days later, I told them enough about what happened between Ava and I, which led MrBeast to launch a third-party investigation into the matter. I provided them with evidence of chat logs, screenshots, and gave them a list of witnesses in the company who had seen Ava and I being physical together. That was over 2 weeks ago, and in that time, I have not heard back anything despite asking for an update twice. During this time period, the allegations against Ava for inappropriately talking to minors and more details of her relationship with Shadman became public. Seeing all this come out and happen has put me in a uniquely uncomfortable position. I knew she had a troubled past, but I thought it never went past attack helicopter jokes and liking an edgy artist. I wasn't super online when Shadman was popular, so I knew very little about him and didn't know about Ava being associated with someone who sold drawings of CP. It was already extremely difficult to navigate moving on from being sexually assaulted and being taken advantage of by someone I cared about who had an immense amount of power over me. Seeing everything this week has been extremely stressful, and it has been equally difficult to see people respond in bad faith with transphobia, as it has been to see people blindly defend Ava and disregard evidence because she is transgender. I feel like the only way for people to move forward with my life is to talk publicly about what happened. I don't want hush money. I don't want clout. I just want to be able to move on with my life and close this chapter. Whew. So that was a lot to get through. And there hasn't been, as far as I've been able to tell, more information outside of more Discord logs being leaked, more information about the minors that were in those Discords. And a lot of that information appears to make it seem like Ava had been having very inappropriate conversations with these people, or at the very least, being very irresponsible with minors. If you choose to occupy, as an adult, a space that contains minors for any reason, and there's a variety of reasons you would. You're a youth pastor at a church, that's a reason. Or let's say you're a teacher at a school, that's a reason. Or you're at a place where minors will mingle irrespective of you being there, like a rollerblading rink or a card shop. Going to the mall, like these are all places where you will be intermingling with other people all the time. If you are an adult, in those situations, you have a responsibility to everybody around you to not be a fucking weirdo with those kids. And the older you get, the deeper that responsibility gets. The further distanced you are from your own youth, the more responsibility you have to be a non-shitty person to those youth, to those people whose frontal lobes have not fully developed, whose ideas about consent have not fully developed, who have not become full-fledged adults with full-fledged rights, who are in the most vulnerable stages of their lives. At the very least, it looks like Ava has been very irresponsible with that stewardship over anyone else, with that stewardship that every adult should have where minors are concerned if you are in a mixed company space. But past that, the way that Ava seems to have treated her relationship with Muska, I don't like commenting on people's private affairs, and we only have one side of the conversation where their relationship is concerned. But it is very believable. It is very believable that a person in power would use that power to manipulate a fan and use it to receive sexual favors or anything. Again, a lot of content creators find themselves in this situation where people are fans of their content and then they start blurring the lines between themselves and another person and never quite establishing that they've moved past the point of their power dynamic and into a relationship dynamic or anything else. Instead, they stay as long as they can in an area where they have maximum power. If you're not in a relationship with someone, you feel like you don't have the same responsibilities to them as you would if you are in a relationship with them. After all, if you have a partner, then you and that partner are a team, and you should be working together to make the world work better for both of you. If you're just friends with benefits, you don't have that same kind of responsibility. And it looks like Ava used her position of power to try to keep that level of power as high as it could possibly be, without sacrificing any of it by getting in an actual relationship. And by being able to keep her distance from Muska, as far as a relationship was concerned, she's able to constantly toe that line and constantly do things like get sexual favors, but not actually feel like she has to receive them, feel like she has to reciprocate them. Because again, that's what you do when you are a partner. You go, hey, I'm doing this thing for you. You do this thing for me. We do this thing for each other because we love each other. This does not look like a situation of love. This looks like a situation of opportunism and power dynamic abuse. There's lots of reasons why stuff like this can happen, which isn't as yikesy as what this looks like, but this does look very fucking yikesy to me. So ultimately, where do I stand on all this? Well, it looks like, to me, that Ava Tyson is the type of individual that can and will abuse any power that is handed to her. She may or may not be a groomer. I don't know whether I'm willing to ascribe that particular label to her. But I am willing to say she is abusive in a variety of ways. She abuses her power when it comes to her fans. She abuses her power when it comes to the age of her fans. She abuses her power when it comes to potential relationships. And who knows how many Muskas there were here. While there was only one that was actively engaged in a relationship, how many people were used and left on the sidelines in a similar way? It's okay to find out you're not interested with another human being in a relationship sense and then walk away from that relationship. It's less okay to string that person along, and every time things go really good in your life, they're not there. But, when things start going badly, then you start going back to them, and you're just playing with somebody's emotions at that point. That is abusive. It is a thing that narcissists will often do. I can't diagnose Ava. I don't have a psych degree, and I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. But I can say what this looks like. This looks like abuse. This looks like narcissism. This looks like somebody who shouldn't have power over people until they have matured quite a lot. But they're already 28 years old, and since she's already 28 years old, I don't know how much more maturing is going to be happening there. This looks to be the person who Ava Tyson is, and this is a very different position to find myself in than in the first two videos. In the first video that I made, I was very much on Ava's side, going, none of this information is substantial enough. When the second video was done, I had more information, and it was enough for me to raise my eyebrow and go, no, you have done a lot of shitty things. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a shitty person right now. But when it comes to Muska, this was very recent. A lot of these conversations were happening as early as this year. This is stuff that has been happening for a while. July of 2024 was the last time that these two had contact, and it's still July of 2024 right now. This means to me that at the very least, Ava Tyson is potentially very, very abusive with power. And that's enough to not want them to be a content creator. That's enough to warn anybody if Ava does end up starting a content creation career outside of this sphere. That's enough to warn people away from her. At the very least, to warn them away from getting close to her in any way, shape, or form. Because it looks like when people do get close to her, then she will just abuse them. And there's another part of this dynamic I haven't talked about. The other part of this dynamic that gets interesting is that if a person is this abusive type of individual, if that is in fact the person that Ava Tyson is, then as more and more people abandon her, she will start clinging to more and more people who are further and further away from the situation, trying to get her claws in wherever that she can. When somebody starts doing that, they can start making a lot of really stupid decisions. So there's probably going to be more content that's going to come out from various content creators on Ava Tyson, because there's a chance this may end up being the thing that makes Ava do more stupid shit as she tries to grab more people, as more friends quite literally walk away from a person who seems to be abusing her power when it comes to minors, who seems to be abusing her power when it comes to potential love interests, who seems to be abusing her power when it comes to fans. But this has been a very long video, so I want to know what y'all think. Let me know in the comment section below. I'm so sorry that I was not able to do this on stream, but with the amount of information there, I do not think I would have been able to do this with an audience of any kind. I think my voice is already trying to go out. So thank you for watching. I appreciate every one of you. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, just wanted to give a quick thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who help keep me afloat and help keep this channel going. YouTube and Twitch are wonderful platforms, but at the end of the day, stability is not one of their strong suits. If you want to support my channel, then obviously Patreon is one of the best ways of doing that. Link is in the description. But I do want to personally thank everybody who has contributed to the channel. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Autumn and Angel, Nixie Chan, Mark Anthony, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fire Shard. And everyone else who supports my channel and lets me do what I do full time. This is a dream job of mine that I never believed that I would be able to take full time, and with your help, I've been able to do it. So thank you so very much for that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all are having a wonderful time. I will see you all in the next one, hopefully.